For the first time in what feels like years, there actually aren't a lot of new isekai or even general fantasy anime coming out. Excluding any sequels, there's really only 6 that fall into these categories. But given the current state of the world, I wouldn't be surprised if Re:Zero wasn't the only anime delayed to the summer. In any case, let's take a look at the ones that will be around to keep us entertained during this time of quarantine. Starting of course with the one that I'm sure you've all already heard of, Tower of God. This is one of the more interesting anime for this season, reason being that it's an adaptation of a Korean manga, or manhwa as they're more formally known. If this anime turns out to be successful, then it could very well open up a whole new world of manhwa-based anime. So for the sake of Solo Leveling getting an adaptation, hopefully we can make Tower of God have a good run. Anyway, Tower of God is about as fantastical as any anime can get. There's magic, mystical elements, mythical creatures, and most importantly a mysterious setting. A brand new world that is pretty much restricted to the confines of what's called the Tower. Within this tower resides all sorts of different people and creatures, and the higher up the tower you live, the greater your status in the world. But you don't simply get to be placed at a certain floor in the tower. You have to earn your position by climbing each of the floors. Those who choose to ascend must first start at the bottom, then make their way to the top, with ascension only being possible by completing increasingly difficult tests of strength and intelligence, each being different from the last and each being administered by those who live at the top or have already ascended the tower. Now, as you'd expect, the show revolves around our main character who for personal reasons has decided to ascend. Of course, there's definitely more to it than just that, but part of the fun of this series is learning for yourself the mysteries of this world and the characters within. So definitely give this one a watch if it wasn't already on your radar. Next up we have Studio Trigger's brand new Animal. Another original anime coming from the studio that always ends their shows with giant robots fighting in space. Except this time things are actually looking a little bit different. The focus for this anime seems to be humanoid animals. A whole new species of people who have been living under the radar for centuries up until now. The setting is in a near future society where these beastmen and humans coexist, though not entirely in a peaceful manner. Since their integration into society, beastmen have been oppressed by the humans and forced to live in their own city. Where this story kicks off is when a normal high school girl finds herself transformed into one of these beastmen, an event that isn't really known to happen since you can only be born as either a human or a beastman. There's never been any reported situations of a human becoming a beastman or vice versa, and that's where the root of the mystery lies. This girl is sent to Anima City where she then joins another beastman in an investigation to determine the cause of her condition, all while dealing with other conflicts and mysteries within the city. So I think if Beastars was something that you liked from last season, then brand new Animal might be a good show to check out next. The first isekai on our list comes from the light novel I Reincarnated into an Otome game as a Villainess with only destruction flags. It's a story that follows the life of an otaku girl who gets isekai'd into her favorite Otome game. But not as the protagonist though. Instead she was isekai'd as the villain, who from what she remembers, either ends up dead or exiled no matter what route the main character takes. So basically the series revolves around her trying to navigate through this story without reaching those less than ideal ends. Now, as far as comedic isekai go, this one seems like it could turn out to be fairly interesting. The premise is unique enough to present elements that I personally don't think I've seen in any isekai before, so hopefully this show can capitalize on those aspects to present an entertaining story. I mean, at least it looks better than the alternative isekai, which is The Eighth Son. It's the standard case of a salaryman waking up the next day to find himself as a child in a fantasy world. As the title states, he's the 8th and youngest child to a poor noble family. A family with little wealth to distribute to any of their children. With things looking bleak for our basic protagonist, he finds out he possesses a rare aptitude for magic, and luckily enough, he finds a mentor who can teach him how to use that magic. The story then turns into how this salaryman turned kid becomes a famous adventurer. It's really nothing that we've never seen before, so I'm sure it'll just take the place of the standard isekai for the season. Switching back to generic fantasy, we have the anime adaptation for the game Shiro Neko Project Zero Chronicle. Now, because I've never played this game myself, I can't really comment on how that will affect the story we see in the anime. But from what I've gathered, this world consists of numerous small islands, and from those islands come adventurers. In this story, we have a single adventurer who joins up with other adventurers to solve the mysteries of a flying island. But other than that, the rest of the context probably just comes from the mobile game itself. I wouldn't be surprised if this anime was just one big promo for the game anyway, so I think I'll go into this one keeping my expectations low. Finally, the last new fantasy anime airing this season is Shachibato, another mobile game adaptation that deals more with managing a group of adventurers than actually being one. It's more of a lighthearted anime as it centers around the president of a company whose purpose is to collect a rare resource, an essential mineral that can only be retrieved from a dungeon-like area by a team of adventurers. The president's job is to manage these adventurers while at the same time outwit rival companies who are attempting to gather the same resource. So the story basically boils down to this large-scale guild war where their goal is to obtain as much of a single resource as possible. Now, even though the show is being done by the same studio that did Suka Suka, the premise just seems more interesting as a game than it does as an actual anime, so I think I'll probably end up waiting for the initial reviews. Now, as for the returning anime, we first have the long-awaited finale to Sword Art Online Alicization, which I honestly can't stress enough how great Part 1 to War of Underworld was. Seriously, if you haven't caught up to the latest episode of the Alicization arc, then you might want to do that before episode 1 comes out on April 26th. And if you want to know why, then feel free to check out a video I made a little while back explaining why I think SAO is actually pretty good right now. The other returning isekai is Ascendance of a Bookworm, the wholesome anime about a studious girl whose passion for books has led her to become one of the most innovative merchants in the entire country. This anime isn't for everyone. I mean, there's not really any fighting or action. It's kind of just like the Dr. Stone of isekais plus a little bit of magic. So if you weren't interested in it before, then you probably won't be interested in it now. But if you already were, then I'm fairly certain that this season will be just as good as the last. Anyway, that's every fantasy and isekai that I could find airing this season. I'm still pretty bummed out that ReZero was delayed to the summer, but if anything, that just shows that they're willing to take that extra bit of time to make sure it's something that can meet our expectations. And honestly, that new ending from the director's cut was more than enough to keep me hyped. Now, before I go, I'm going to be starting to stream on Twitch, so if you want to chill with me and see me play some video games like Genshin Impact, Valorant, or Call of Duty, then feel free to follow me there to get notifications of when I'm live. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao!